In today's episode, we're talking about how to hold it together without losing yourself and how to design your days intentionally so you can finish strong, or at least finish with your well-being intact. And I'm going to use the word kind of intact. Let's dive into the well and keep treading that water. Welcome to the Edgewell Podcast, a show created for, by, and with teachers. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chelsea. Our goal is to share insights and connect with fellow teachers on how to thrive both personally and professionally.
Join us as we dive deep into the well of information filled with relatable tips, practical discussions, and ideas that go way beyond the classroom walls. Let's be well
and do well together.
So Chelsea, we're taping this episode at the end of June, and it's going to play next year. And we're taping it deliberately right now because we are in it and we are feeling it. And it's far more authentic to that end of the year way of being, way of feeling.
That's the first thing we want to talk about here is paying attention to how we are feeling. Because right now, we're feeling pretty tired. There are a lot of emotions that happen at the end of a school year. And we're going to put this episode out not only to remind ourselves that we need to take a good look at the next few months, but to remind others to do that as well. So the first thing we want to do is really think about our past school years. How have we felt? Again, we're doing that reflection. And what do we want to change or keep the same about this upcoming school year? A lot of us can probably relate to feeling tired, feeling low on patience, craving space. I think that's probably number one for me. I'm finding that I just kind of want my own space right now. I need time to unwind more than usual. So that's something I'm really working on at the end of my school years. We might be experiencing burnout signals, and that could be physical, mental, or emotional. What we want to talk about today is how to alleviate that and really decide for ourselves how we want to end this school year.
Well, and that goes to one of your ongoing goals about intentionality, Chelsea. And it's really looking at this last chunk and ending the year with some sense of control where I don't know about you, but for me right now, this time of year, I just don't feel like I have as much choice as I usually do throughout the year. And so this is a good conversation to have. Every year I'm trying to improve the end, and this is where I continually fall short. And I mean, we have a colleague who always says, finish strong. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I never finish strong. Despite my really good intentions, I'm always left with regret, and I'm always left feeling like I didn't put my very best foot forward. And we'll get into that a little bit more. So I would like help personally with how to design my days to support what I need to be able to do that.
Okay, well, let's first talk about that feeling of not being in control. And let's talk about that when it comes to being in the classroom. We're tired. We want to relax a little bit. We want to have some fun in our classrooms, but we know that we have to really keep a handle on our classroom management, and we really need to keep those routines intact and those learning goals intact so that the students know what to expect. That comes with staying consistent with your routines, reminding students that those expectations haven't changed. I have had to probably remind students on a daily basis, like how things are still running, that we haven't changed anything. Here's what we do at the beginning of each class. And that's just kind of how it is. Like, I mean, the kids are tired too. They're excited for the end of the year, or people are on edge. It's just like that emotion, that overwhelm that's happening when we know that something is going to change. So keeping that structure in place is important for us and for the students.
Right. So I think I agree. And I think routine is very important. And I'm going to add that the level of pushback, like when you're getting a whole bunch of pushback, sometimes it's indicative of a need to shift what and how you are doing things. So like keep the structure of the main routine, yes, but then shifting and changing and being able to have some flexibility. And that is such a balancing act. And I can just think of, even at the beginning of the year, when you finally let go a little bit, it can go too far. Or if you tighten up too much. It's too far. And that's where you really have to observe what is going on and sit back and do that reflecting about, what are some areas where I can now show my students that I trust them because I have set firm expectations all year, and for them to take that ball and run with it. It's finding that balance where, you've given them all the tools, you're going to show them that you trust them. And then every once in a while you do that and it just goes too far. And so the dance is happening a lot right now. And it's exasperating. I also just, for me, it's exasperating. I've been saying the same things all year. I'm hearkening back to the January days where the class was calm and everyone was grateful to be inside because it was cold outside. And that's that sweet spot. And the students are ready to be done, and they're showing that in their behavior. And I have zero energy to be able to really meet them where they're at and figure it out. But I am also saying we need to be reflective and figure it out. So, yeah.
Yeah, the dance is real. And you do have to get that third or fourth wind or whatever wind you're on at this point, and you have to kind of give yourself a serious pep talk. Oh, you know how I was telling you the other day about that thing that came up on the internet for me, and it said something about if you wake up and you wish you were 20 years old again, don't do that. Tomorrow, wake up and pretend you're 90 years old. And then think about your own age. Let's say it's 43 and you're 90 years old and you're saying, I wish I was 43 again. And then go into the day thinking like that. Well, I'm thinking for next year, when June comes around, I'm going to say to the students, you know what, guys, let's pretend that it's January right now. We're just starting fresh. I'm going to see how that works. I'll let you guys know next year. Okay?
I am really curious to see how that works. That's a
I'm
great idea. Yep. Okay.
We're going to play a pretend game. That's what we're going to do in my class. That's deep learning right there. But we talked about doing structured, fun activities. We talked about that in our end of the year do's and don'ts episode in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't hear that, you might want to go back to it right now. But I'm going to give an example of a structured, fun activity that I did this year. And it also goes along the lines of what you said about not going overboard with it, keeping it under control, I guess. I did a game leader's assignment. And so the kids get into groups and they have the opportunity to now lead the class in a game or an activity that they really like to do. Before you start this, you have another lesson, a review on the fact that we are all trying something that someone else wants to do. So we need to be accepting of that. We need to have fun with it, and we need to participate because we're going to be doing your activity as well. And it can be any type of game. It can be a physical activity game. It can be a drama game that they didn't get to, anything like that, because they always have these games that they've done in the grades before. And we can't get to everything in a year. So this is a time for them to bring in something that they really like to do, or they can make it up, and everyone takes part. So we've been doing that. They plan it all out with their group, materials they need, who's saying what, who's giving instructions. And then I am just helping them and guiding them along when they're in front of the classroom doing it. So we've been doing that. And I have to tell you, it's been going really well. Everyone is participating. We're getting new ideas. I'm getting new ideas. So that's also helpful for me. But there was one afternoon where I scheduled 3 games in a row. Let me tell you, by the last game, everyone was burned out.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work out. It didn't go well. And we kind of had to reschedule that game for the next day. That's where I had to reflect and say, okay, you can't do too much in one day. 1-2 games a day works, but don't go overboard with it. But it's a great thing to do at the end of the year. Lots of fun, lots of structure, and lots of choice for the kids.
Right. Balance of fun, but structured fun. And then other pieces where perhaps you get the students to go do something quiet so they get a break from the activity of it all. And I'm picturing this process and then the actualization of teaching the game to the class, let's say. And I'm seeing a class that has purpose. And I think if I reflect about my own teaching, there always comes a point where if I'm not purposeful, and let's say I just, let's say I press play, right? And there's really no purpose aside from just got to get these kids entertained. They feel that from me. They feel that from what I've presented to them. At least with what you just brought up, there's purpose, but you're not always driving the purpose. You're giving the structure, and then you can sit back and guide through a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that type of thing. I've done similar things, Chelsea. End of the year, like alphabet activity, where we go backwards in time and think of the special things that we've done throughout the year, and different groups, make a slide or a presentation for a memory that they've had. And that reflection piece about all the good things that have happened, it elicits a feeling of nostalgia in the students. And I think in doing so, sometimes you almost enforce ending strong with really good memories, as opposed to how I sometimes feel like I'm ending with stop talking. Why are you there and not here? Just these
Yeah.
constant nitpicky moments, which brings up one more point, which is listen carefully. And because I'm going to say an agitating time of the school year in June, because
Yeah.
it is agitating, you start trying to control, and it's your voice often that's coming up and interrupting. And that nervous energy that you feel because you feel like things are getting off the rails, the students feel that. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Yes. I want to bring up one thing that you had mentioned when we were brainstorming about what to do at the end of the year, just a conversation that we had,
Yeah.
is that you had said to do something to celebrate or showcase
Yeah.
what the students have been learning or involved in. So I think it is good to intentionally plan some type of learning, some type of project where there is a celebration very close to the very end of the year, because that gives it more purpose. So I really love that idea.
Yeah. So I've done many times at the end of the year, especially, where I've invited other students in the school, other classes, and I do a carousel, and the students aren't just presenting to each other for the millionth time, but they're getting a new audience into the space, new energy into the space. And there's something about inviting guests into your room where if you make it into something special and you invite people, and I always add in some sort of a treat or some sort of a catch, what is it, like a prize, I don't know, something. It just gets students reinvigorated, re-engaged. And I think it's the time of year where you have to pull out new bags of tricks to keep the students engaged. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that every time we do something like this, it's loaded with potential assessments without making that the be all and end all. I enjoy that type of stuff, though. I do, and I'm good with organized chaos. I also really like structure, so it's a
A
catch
little bit of
22.
both. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to encourage myself, because we're going to be listening to this a couple months before the year ends next year. I'm going to strongly encourage myself and everyone else, I guess, even though everyone can do their own thing, to have that plan in place right now. Because once it gets to this time in the year, where we're very close to the end of the year right now, you don't really have it in you to, okay, I got to plan a celebration now. So if we can have that in mind earlier, and that is my plan for next year, like I want to have the 4 weeks in June completely structured, and know exactly what I'm going to teach the students, know that if I'm going to have a celebration, be prepared for that. So that's just another goal I'm going to add on for myself for next year.
You know what I was just thinking about while you were saying that is there's a level of dangling of, well, we could still, go in and do report cards. It's finding that balance between being overly marks driven, like if you want to take that approach, or if you want to
Mm.
take we're still a part of this community and we want to end strong and we want to enjoy the time that we have together. Or maybe it's a mix of both as a way to maintain and keep engagement.
Yeah, that's another thing that depends on your subject that you're teaching. It does. It depends. How much flexibility do you have there?
That's right. I think I've always had a fair bit of flexibility, a lot of flexibility. So that is a very true point, Chelsea. Wow, what a wide lens you have. You're thinking about high school teachers and multiple subjects. Nice.
Let's go on to minding your mindset. You know how we love to talk about mindset. So let's go back to what you were saying about should haves.
Oh, this is a conversation that we also had. So for listeners, Chelsea and I talk a lot about this in advance, so we know in general what we do want to talk about. And one of the things that I was sharing was that I tend to beat myself up at the end of the year, and I should have done more. I didn't get to that project. I did that project, but I had intended to do these other pieces of it that I didn't get to, and it didn't give as much feedback as I wanted. It's a constant didn't, should have, all negative contractions. And it's really demoralizing. And I'm going to give you an example of recently, if I could tell a little story, Chels. Is that okay? Here,
I'll allow that too.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Look how flexible she is, everyone. This is fabulous. Okay. So I recently had the opportunity as a team to put on a wellness fair in our school community. I had a really big vision. The students had a really big vision. There was research, there were interviews, there was actualization of stations that people could visit to learn about different ways that you can reset when you need to, be resilient, find things that you enjoy doing that happen to also be really good for you. And the wellness fair happened. And as I was, running around like a chicken with my head cut off, essentially, all I could see and all I could feel was the negative. I'm being very honest right now. It was, in this station, I should have remembered that to remind the students that they could have done this. I didn't do this. Oh, the poster for this station, I was supposed to print in color. I didn't get to, like a litany of things that were just not good enough. And one of my colleagues, and the podcast has been introduced to this individual in the past, looked at me and kind of called me out in a good way. He was like, "What's wrong with you right now? Like, what's," I'm like, "I don't know." And I'm listing these things. And he's like, "Everything's great. Like the kids are enjoying themselves." But I just couldn't get there because I couldn't get over my own negativity loop. It's almost like I couldn't see the forest through the trees. And I really missed out on the joy of that day in so many ways. I really did, Chels, because all I could see was the things that I didn't do good enough, which was a bit of an eye opener for me because we have talked about I can be glass half full. That tends to be the way I think, but that was not how I approach this. And often in teaching at the end of the year, I get into this didn't, should have, can't, just things that didn't go exactly as planned. And so I have to remember to reframe that as what is going well. And the students had a really good experience and it wasn't perfect, but there's so much learning in that for the students and what can happen next year to move forward and looking at it in a different way and just how much more fun that can be. And I think we could apply that to our entire classroom experience in June. That shift in mindset. Yeah.
Every year. I that's one of the, I think, fun challenges of the job. And yes, it went really well and it was great. And yes, you're way too hard on yourself. Everybody had a really nice experience and it was good. It was a wonderful wellness fair. So you did a fantastic job on that. But again, sometimes, you just need support from other people to sort of validate that because you're working on such a big project and so many people are involved. So there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you now have the opportunity to figure out what you want to add, what you want to change, what you want to take away. And we can do that in every part of our teaching. I have lots of fun with that at the end of the year. Even though I think, I wish I could have gotten to that, but then I start redesigning something else for the next year. And we do have this new chance every year. And what did go well? A lot of things. So always to reflect on what went well. And you can see that in your students in your class, right? And that's the whole point. Ending the year on a positive note. That's going to tell you that things went well. And I do think that focusing on that community piece is very, very important. And your wellness fair at the end of the year really did that for all of us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And it's true. Thank you very much for giving it a compliment to the wellness fair. I do. I appreciate that. And thank you to the individual who called me out on my crankiness because I saw myself in a new light in that moment. And it's almost like a reminder of walking the walk and talking the talk. So as much as you can work on all of these things in your life, it doesn't mean you can't fall off and fall into these habits that are not always natural. It's not always natural to see the good if you feel high stress or if you have a lot of pressure on you to make something work, right? And it's finding that kindness for yourself. And we talk about this all the time, Chelsea, but I just want to remind listeners that it is a constant back and forth and work and negotiation and re-examination of whether or not you're living what you're talking about. And it's nice to get reminders once in a while when you fall off.
Yes, exactly. And that brings us to the next topic, which is to think about how we are connecting with other people, like our colleagues. We're all feeling something right now. And so sometimes someone needs you to listen. Sometimes someone needs encouragement. Someone needs support. And sometimes you need all of that too. Our frustrations can get high at this time. So it's worth reminding ourselves that we're headed for some relaxation, hopefully, and to try to just reassure yourself of that and others of that if you can, if they need it.
So true. And in spaces where there's a lot of conversations, it's inevitable that there are moments where things are misinterpreted or the stress is high and people don't have the same patience for one another. What I grabbed from your point was listening and reacting in a way that's fitting of this is a really tough time. Pause. What was that thing that you said in another episode? Response. Ability. Yeah. You have the ability to respond in a way that is going to preserve relationship, because there are moments that happen in June when it's high stress where pausing before you respond is important because you don't know what other people are going through. But put yourself, you're in June, you know how you feel. Well, other people are feeling similar or maybe even worse. And so I'm working real hard to respond in ways that really respect and honor that we're all in a high stress situation. Another one is it's so important to stay in your own lane right now. You have a job to finish. I have a job to finish. And I think there's a lot of getting caught up in everything else that's going on in the month of June. So I'm working hard to stay in my own lane. And it makes me think about, it's Mel Robbins who says, let them. People have different ways of surviving June. Let them. It's not up to you how someone else is surviving their June. If I want to play music in my classroom all day long as it's not too loud and, going through the walls, I mean, just let me, okay? That's what I need right now. So I think that that's something in my career that I've learned over time is to stay in my own lane, let other people be in their own process, and just mind my own concerns in this chunk of time. High stress. June is high stress with students and with colleagues. That's real.
That is real.
But then I'm going to jump back to your last point about talking to people and leaning on people. That is also necessary. It's both, right? Stay in your own lane, but know who can handle the lean in the moment of June.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You can lean on me right now, Chels.
Oh, I know.
But there have been moments where, this month, I've just wanted to lock myself in the bathroom for a bit.
Yes.
Escape. Yeah.
Escape. We need escape in June. Which brings us to our last topic. Double down on your health as much as you can. We always talk about rest. It's time to focus on where you're getting that rest in at the end of the year. Because one thing goes into another thing, And I know I'm really paying attention to my downtime right now because of my past experience at the end of the school years where I have just gone straight into burnout and I've just said, yes, and just kept going and going. And that did not work out for me well. So learning from that experience and really leaving that white space in your calendar for the unexpected. So when you're looking at that calendar, actually look at those days and think about where your downtime is coming in.
Right. Retirement parties, year-end events, field trips, report cards. You're on so much more than you might normally be on. And it's already a time where you're exhausted. So I said no to something this week. I grieve what I miss. I do not like missing things with my friends. It really bothers me if I'm being honest. It's not even FOMO. It's just I like showing up for people. I like being a part of the conversation and bonding. And I'm always learning from everyone I talk to. And I knew that I had a whole week of things that were going on outside of the school day, within the school day. So I had to let this one go. That time was so valuable for me where I just got to be and not have pressure. And even this morning, Chelsea, I woke up and I hardly slept. I'm exhausted. And my instinct, do you know me well enough to know what the little voice in my head is saying?
Don't meet Chelsea online. Just do something else.
No, it's go get the arugula. And listeners who've been with us
Oh
since the
my God, we're
beginning
back to the arugula.
are like, my brain is like, you gotta go get like groceries. And I'm like, oh my God, chill out. And I made a conscious decision today. I was gonna tape the podcast. No, you were wrong. I've looked forward to this, but that I'm going to take care of what I've got here, and I'm gonna really just rest today. And I had a really nice breakfast, and I took my time, and anytime the urge to go and do something super productive popped up, I reframed it like, no, productive is rest, because rest is what allows you to show up and be productive or to survive. That's where I'm at. But just preserving your health right now. With all of these events, you're eating foods that you might not normally eat, which can be really hard on your system. And you might be staying up late and not sleeping as much. So you're on, your last nerves. And so if you can double down on health and be mindful about that, it can really help you to finish strong, if that's your goal. It is mine.
Yes. So we're going to have a look at the calendar. We're going to see what we can put in place to maintain our health, our emotional well-being, especially our physical well-being, because we don't want to wait until our well is completely empty and dry to just start caring for ourselves in the summer. What we're talking about in this episode is trying to keep some of that water in the well. So this is where those boundaries really matter.
Yes, excellent point. And I'm going to just add to that. You could lose a lot of summer if you're spending 2 weeks in bed recovering from the stress of it all. So if you can maintain to the best of your ability, you can hit the ground running a bit more in the summer and have full energy, or as much energy as you can right from the beginning. You don't want to waste any of that summer. That's for sure.
All right, let's get into the takeaways.
1, keep those routines going.
2, stay intentional. Think about where you want to put your time and your energy.
3, choose purposeful fun. Have a plan in place. Be okay with going with the flow, but always have an overall structure.
4, think about your future self and how you want to take care of that self.
This last stretch of the school year doesn't have to be a blur. Take out your calendar, get out a highlighter, do some really good planning. With some structure, reflection, and a bit of breathing room, you can catch your third wind. You can plan your third wind, and maybe even enjoy the view from here. Thanks for listening to the Eduwell podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a positive review. It helps others to find us.
Follow us on Instagram and Pinterest to help spread the word. For more inspiration, tips, and book recommendations, just head to the show notes and join the Eduwell newsletter today. Until next time, be well
and do well.